Yeah.
Greetings everyone, my name is Xolisa Ncenge and welcome back to Dizzy World, a channel where we focus on social justice for all kinds of people. And not so long ago, I saw something very interesting on ENCA, the Dan Koda show, where he debunked a big fat lie by the right-wing movement in this country and abroad. And this big fat lie was about the alleged 142 race laws that we may have heard about in recent weeks, where the anti-transformation forces are trying to reverse the clock or taking us back to apartheid, where the Institute of Race Relations, a research and policy organization, published what they called an index of race laws, where they claimed about 142 acts of parliament are operative in South Africa. And now these far-right groups are using this claim to suggest that South Africa's current laws are racist, if not more racist than apartheid was. Really? Unlike the vast majority of South Africans who are not claiming or sharing their sentiments, therefore that the government is racist. He actually went to have a look at the list and the legislation they included, and he came to a conclusion that this is all a bunch of hot air, and the strategy seems to be hoping that you, the people, won't bother to go and have a look at this list of legislation yourself. And what they appear to have done was just to click Control F to find the words race, racial, disadvantaged in every single act. And if they find these words, they put them on the list without any regard as to why and how those words were used in the act. And he said nearly all these laws they mentioned have provisions to give the disadvantaged communities a fair chance and address past injustices. Kindly, can we please have a look at the following clip and hear the man speaks for himself.
Okay, fine. You get the point. All of these apparently racist laws do mention race, but in very obviously reasonable ways. Some of them literally mention race when saying no one can be prejudiced against someone else based on race. And others say we need to make sure that our workplaces reflect all of South Africa because a lot don't due to past injustice and historical disadvantage. So maybe let's take steps to fix that. They also include gender and disability under disadvantaged. So when they say 142 race laws that are just like apartheid, that exists on the idea that giving some opportunities to disadvantaged people is racist, not redress or justice. In most of these laws, disadvantaged includes women, but they aren't crying about the 142 sexist laws. What I'm trying to tell you is they don't buy their own argument, folks. They're just using it to push a political agenda. Now, before you say, Dan, gotcha, that sounds like you're prejudicing some people based on race. Please be serious. Our country was built into a system that excluded millions of South Africans on race, formally and socially. And our social order has excluded millions of South Africans based on gender and disability too. That has left so many people disadvantaged. The playing field is unfair. The provisions in these laws are about trying to redress that, to undo that unjust system, to provide redress and opportunity. It's called transformative justice. It's not the same as prejudice. Redressing injustice on race is not inherently racist in the same way that redressing injustice on gender is not inherently sexist, guys. Prejudice is what apartheid did. And that's what is so disingenuous and ahistorical about the argument that says that modern South Africa is just like apartheid and maybe worse. The argument that says that all these racial laws are racist like apartheid was. None of these modern laws bar white South Africans, bar them based on race, just like they don't bar men based on gender. They simply try to counteract unfairness in our normal social systems that disadvantage people of color, women, and disabled people. The apartheid government didn't allow black people to own land in most of the country. It didn't allow black people to go certain places. If they could go, it was only on the permission of a white person and a permit. The apartheid government forcibly removed black people from land. The apartheid government didn't let black people get a decent education beyond the level of base servitude menial jobs. The apartheid government didn't let black people do decent jobs at all. The apartheid government denied black people opportunities to gain wealth, and the apartheid government created laws that created white people wealth. That's racist. And that is so much infinitely more impactful than trying to level the playing field in modern day South Africa. No amount of counting up modern South African laws equals the Land Act, the Group Areas Act, the Pass Laws, the Bantu Education Act. And it's so incredibly offensive to even try and make them seem similar. If modern South Africa did not have legislation that levels the playing field to give fair chances to disadvantaged groups, then the exact unequal society that apartheid created would continue to exist. And to all those white people complaining that now we have it so hard, here is some data from the first census after apartheid ended so you can understand what apartheid did. From the 1996 census, 1 in 5 black South Africans lived in informal housing. 0.1% of white South Africans did. Over 6 million black South Africans in 96 had no access to piped water. 3% of white South Africans did not have access to piped water. 59% of black South Africans had no waste removal in their communities. Just 8% of white South Africans had no waste removal in their communities. 56%, over half of black South Africans had no access to electricity in 1996. Less than 1%, 0.4% of white South Africans had no electricity. And today, all data reveals that white people are living longer than all the other races, are wealthier and better educated with better opportunities than other races, are better protected in safety and security than all the other races in this country, and have far better quality of life than all other races. And that's with progressive laws that are trying to create transformative justice and evolve our society, level the playing field, and give all South Africans a fair chance. Actual racist apartheid laws would have stripped white South Africans of all of this in far fewer than 30 years. So on these 142 laws, let's be serious, please.
Very true. It is offensive and insulting to equate our democratic government to an illegitimate, racist, white, minority apartheid regime that committed crimes against black people, something that the black government has never done. And as much as it is disturbing to see the emboldened right-wing movement in South Africa peddling lies, white supremacy, cultural nationalism, identitarian movement, or identitarianism, one thing for sure is that this country will never be partitioned, meaning the Cape independence. The white Afrikaner homeland will never happen. even their matriarch, Helen Zille, understands that this is a pipe dream that they must forget about. A pipe dream that they must forget about. She said this herself addressing the Biz News conference on New World Order, GNU, and the future of South Africa. And in the same gathering, there was this one billionaire, Rob Hertzog, who seems very scared of President Jacob Zuma. He says, forget Malema, forget the disruptive and useless ANC. MK is the real threat. And we must give money to political parties. That is the TA, the PA, IFP, FF+, ACDP. Apparently, these are their so-called good guys. Good guys who are participating in their own oppression. Very interesting. Or civic organizations like Free Market Foundation, Institute of Race Relations, and AfriForum. So apparently, the billionaires in this country are funding the anti-transformation movement. Very much interesting. They are funding the GNU on one hand and funding the anti-transformation movement on the other one. Isn't that a contradiction? South Africa. Initially, I was worried about this right-wing movement in South Africa. People like Kali Kriel, Rob Hertzog, Helen Zille. Rob Hertzog was bragging in that gathering about having 30 podcasters in South Africa who are working for their agenda or supporting their agenda. Billionaires in America and around the world. Apparently, people who are supposedly funding this movement. So it looks like a big movement. It's a global movement. It's not only a South African movement. It's a global movement. Anti-transformation movement. I was worried about what they are doing in this country, spreading misinformation. But now I am not, because I think their agenda has backfired. It is producing unintended results, bringing back the land question, which is the original sin. White supremacy, economic freedom, land question, economic freedom, white supremacy, etc. back on the table. Something that I think it is very good indeed, because for the longest time, people in South Africa, especially the oppressed masses, were tiptoeing around these issues. Now these issues are back on the table. We are talking about these issues now. Thanks to this movement. Thank you very much indeed. Also, congratulations to them for the expulsion of Ibrahim Rasool in the United States. They must be happy. But I am not happy with the Tony Leon DA replacement agenda. How can you replace Rasool with a Western proxy. You can't do that. ANC must find a suitable person within the ANC, not outside the ANC. And good people, this is how we come to the end of today's episode. Please like, subscribe, share, and see you on the next one. Cheers.